Hello, I'm just an ordinary old guy trying to learn how OBS works. This is my intro. I hope you like it. Yay. Hello, my name is Herman. I do a lot of judging for a lot of games. Today I'm here to talk about deck checks. It's something that happens in all competitive events, or at least I would like it to, but it's something that's commonly misunderstood because I find that a lot of players and judges especially think that a deck check is just looking at the 50 or 60% of cards and seeing if they match and just going from there and not doing any additional work. So I want to point out all the things that you should be doing in a deck check and just hopefully helping to inform judges and players of what we're actually looking for so that people aren't caught off guard when they go to an event and someone says something that they didn't expect to get a penalty or anything something. So to start off with, I have these three decks. Um, this is a Grand Archive deck. I've got a Digimon deck and I've got a One Piece deck. I'm gonna start with the Grand Archive deck. You don't need to be familiar with all the games that I'm doing this for. It's just that it gives a little background for people who do know the game about what just the setup process. So I start off with Grand Archive. There's my sideboard. It's a sideboarding game. There is my material deck. It's another deck of cards that's not in random order that you always play. It's kind of like an extra deck for you. And here's my main deck. So to start off with, if you've been told to deck check a certain table, doesn't matter what game it is, this is the process I like to do. I always wait for the players to be finished shuffling and present their decks. The reason why you wait for them to present their decks is that this is them explicitly stating to your opponent, my deck is fully randomized. I have no control over what I see in this deck, and everything is when I'm giving it to you is completely fair, and I have not manipulated this in any way. While you're waiting for them to shuffle, I also try to take note of where their deck box is, how many extra materials they're bringing to the table, such as tokens, additional sleeves, if they have additional cards, even that's also something you should be looking out for. Um, and then now that they've presented, I say, hey, stop. Before you guys cut each other's decks, let me take these from you. You've been deck checked. So the very first thing you want to do before you even cut to like the when you have like let's say in a big event, you'd probably have like a printout or like a laptop or even on your phone, just like a file of the uploaded deck list submission that they gave you. So you can look at their thing. And most judges right here would start just grabbing it and start sorting it out and being like here, 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 the same thing, and start sorting it out to your 50. I say no. The first thing you should do before you do any of that, and the reason you wait for them to present, is you go through the deck. Just go through a deck, look at the order of the cards, look at if there's anything unusual and fishy. The sharp eyed of you here might have noticed something, which is that there are a couple cards that are upside down, which is even more obvious when I do this. So, also before I start sorting the cards, I do this. You look at the sleeve quality, you look at the consistency of the cut, you look at the consistency of size, stuff like that. Thankfully, these are green matte sleeves. There's no special art or anything, but it also makes it easier to deck check. So when I do this, I see it's like, oh, okay, consistent. Okay, kind of consistent. You can see some cut wears and everything. There's a couple of cards that are kind of, for some reason, a little bolder than the other. It's hard to show on camera. I think right here you can see like it's darker than the other side, which is unusual, but like I'll figure out why later. I just know I have to look out for that. See here, the cut's pretty uneven. Honestly, this is a Dragon Shield issue, but that's for another day. Come here, I was like, oh, that's very unusual. I have some cards that are peeking out like that. And when I went through my original like riffle through the deck, I saw that there's certain cards that are upside down. So now I'm definitely when I see something like that, you go to see what they are. And for people who are familiar with Grand Archive, especially with this A Wind Allies deck, um, these are what I call starter cards. These are cards that I would love to see in my opening hand. That no matter how, like you can see how this is well distributed. This is so that even if I'm only like half cut, cut in thirds or something like that, my opening hand would very likely include one of these starter cards and would give me like good tempo from the very get go. I wouldn't, I would be very unlikely to brick and just have nothing to do in the first couple of turns. And this is definitely something you have to watch out for because it's something that intentionally or unintentionally some people um, get away with more than they really should. I say intentional or unintentional because honestly, when it's upside down cards like that, or it's like specific sequence of cards, sometimes it's just because, you've seen these people who are just messy and they throw the cards all over, and then when they gather them up, they're like, oh, I just shove them like this and then throw them into the deck and start shuffling. So it's good to look at the deck as a whole, see if maybe it's because, when they were riffling, they accidentally like box their deck, which it's the example is like, oh, I took half of it and accidentally going to shuffle. I don't want to box my deck right now. It's really annoying to fix, but that's an example of like, oh, okay, random cards are all upside down. There's no rhyme or reason to the pattern, so it's probably not an issue, but it's something to make note of just in case. But something like that where I was like, oh, those specific cards, those are good turn one starter plays. They're all turned upside down. Probably not a coincidence. Apart from that, the reason you look for sleeve quality as well is because, hey, like when they're marked like that, like this card in particular, these cards in particular have specific darker sleeves, which honestly production run thing. This one here also, yeah, like if it's consistent and noticeable that when you're looking at the deck, you can always cut to the same card, then you have a problem, and that's a resleeving issue. Apart from the deck, the other thing that I said was, hey, take the deck box or like pay attention to the deck box because when you're deck checking, you're also taking the deck box. And the reason you're doing that is you're also looking for anything else that's in here. In this case, oh look, a ton of extra green sleeves. That's amazing. A ton of a yellow orange sleeve for like resleeving this like this too. This is always great to see because that means hey, they know what to expect. Their sleeves are cut up. And then taking like if I were looking at this player, assuming he wasn't me, at an event and seeing like, oh, some of these cards are kind of cut up. Um, the what do you call it? The sleeves being kind of worn or having slight issues, and then seeing these extras in here. In my mind, I would just be like, okay, they know that Dragon Shield has production issues. They're taking steps to fix it. That's a good thing. They're probably not having these cards marked on purpose. Um, so in my mind, it's something that I should tell my head judge, but and give them like just give them the story, just see how you guys together think about the situation. However, those upside down cards, that's a big no no. And other than that, just looking at the sideboard cards, the other thing you want to make sure is the sideboard cards, sleeves and everything match so that when they are sideboarded in, it's not very distinct and obvious that they're different, which is all good. And then you're also looking for, of course, like nicks in the corners, sides, stuff like that, wear and tear that could obviously distinguish one card from another. Next, we're going to move on to my trusty Mirage Galgamon Digimon deck. So Digimon also has sort of a side thing, which is Digi Eggs, which is almost always it's going to be a 4 of, maybe a 4+1 or something like that. These ones you're kind of lenient on. But your main deck here, I made sure I took some art sleeves, some beautiful Sword Art Online. Not sponsored, but I love these guys. Sword Art Online sleeves. Of course, when you see art sleeves, just make sure they're not lewd. They're appropriate for the event uh, you're working. Like if your organizer says you can't have certain IPs or has to limit to certain sleeves or would prefer like clear or blank or like matte sleeves kind of thing for the event. Of course, you have to adhere to those. But for when you're using art sleeves, this is what you're looking out for. You're trying to make sure that every single sleeve, the art is uniform. There's no markings or drawings or anything of the sort. These are all oversleeved, like so they're double sleeved. Um, Often you'll see like got it. You'll see bordered over sleeves. Also want to make sure all of those are on the consistently on the same side. And then for oversleeves, same thing. We're going to look at damage, look at Nick's qualities. This is actually pretty fresh for me, except I did one thing as a test, which was of this. I was like, it's pretty hard to tell through the camera. Well, I can kind of see it right here. There's one card that I put, it's my one of in this deck, that I put into a different brand oversleeve. And I can actually cut to it right here, the Animon right here, because the oversleeve is a little different. So I'm going to give this a shuffle. And again, uh, stuff like this could be intentional or unintentional. If you're a floor judge and doing deck checks, it's usually not your job to determine intent, but it is your job to figure out if just notice all of these things and point them out to the head judge. As a player, it's your responsibility to make sure that none of these things happen, And honestly, if it costs you like a couple bucks to buy a new pack of sleeves, hey man, that's the cost of playing competitive. You should definitely re-sleeve before every event. And you see here, I think it's more obvious this time, where I can see that there's a clear straight line here. I believe this should be the Dianamon again. So I'm just gonna, it's hard to do that while looking through the OBS camera. So if it's the Dianamon, we clearly have a problem because I can cut to it consistently, but it's not the Dianamon. It's just another poorly cut sleeve. So we are safe in that regard. Oh, there's actually another clear one right here. So maybe this is the Dianamon. Oh, it is. So that's kind of what you're looking for. And now that I've done that, I know that there's a consistent card. Now I'm going to do the 50. I'm just going to sort it out, just match the list. Because as you can see, the 50 to me is an afterthought. Most players, unless they're kind of sloppy or they're like a rushing, which is still sloppy in my opinion, their deck list should always match. Like, that's really not what you're looking for. What you're looking for is making sure that no shenanigans are going on. So for this deck, I already know that that's what I've done. So like, there's nothing, there should not be nothing else wrong with this. It's a pretty fresh resleeve. For oversleeve decks, this is also what I like to do. When you know the game, so I always encourage judges to also be um, competent and proficient at the game that they're judging, because you want to know what cards are win conditions, which cards are starters, stuff like that. Especially for oversleeve decks, I will make sure I unsleeve at least one or two winning conditions, like go through unsleeve a certain couple cards in there, looking for maybe like stuffed cards, like let's say like I did like this or something like that. I put another card in there, made it thicker so that I can very clearly tell where it is in the deck. Looking for that. It's more obvious when you use the same card, but like for standard size cards like this, I don't have a Yu-Gi-Oh card on me, but that's another like way you do it. You stuff it with like a smaller um, size card so it's really obvious where it shows up, or like paper or something like that. So just unsleeve a couple, make sure it's all consistent. Um, Now let's move on to the deck box. Uh-oh, what is this? This time the deck box has cards in it, and this becomes a problem. And why I tell you to take the deck box. So for Digimon, very free. There is no like side deck. There's no sideboard. And yeah, I see a lot of players do this, and they tell me, "Oh, it's fine." So first off, I'm gonna look here for Digimon players. You'll already tell that these three cards very clearly don't belong in their deck. And as a judge, when you know the game, you can also tell these three cards definitely don't belong in the deck. They cannot be played in the deck even, and it's probably being used as storage. For this, I would probably give the um the player a warning to be like, "Hey, don't keep extra cards in your deck." Deck box. Almost I don't know if it's almost. I think it's like every single competitive TCG has this rule, which pretty much don't keep extra cards in the box that you're presenting, that you're not planning to use. Because honestly, a lot of things, and I don't want to explain too much, would give people ideas, but TLDR, there's a lot of things that can happen when you have these extra cards, and this is a no go. So something like this, I'd be like, hey, like I understand if you don't have other storage, just try not to do that. Find somewhere else. If they're like the event pack cards that we just gave for like participation or something like that, I'm like, okay, cool, I understand. But now we move into stuff like this, where it's like these are actually playable versions of cards in that deck. That you have some people are saying it's like, oh, because they're sleeved differently or they're unsleeved or something like that, it should be fine. Like you're just being kind of harsh on them. For me, I'm telling you, like this is definitely never okay with me. This I would almost 100% award a game loss for immediately, because additional cards in a deck where you're not supposed to have them signals to me that there's a possibility that, especially in real life events where you know the opponents that you're playing against or you've seen them a couple rounds down, you can like after matches go up and you're like, oh, I see this name, I know what he's playing. He's playing like a War Greymon deck in this situation. I'd be like, oh, okay, let me just take a bathroom break really quick. Um, Come like find one of the cards like, oh, I don't need my one tech card this time. I'm just going to switch it out like this really quick, unsleeve it. I'll play the game, and then after the round is over, I'm going to the washroom again, switch it out really quick. I was like, oh, no one was ever the wiser at it. Like, who would have known? Because all I did was change my ratios, add something else, play another card that would have been played anyway. Um, so this is definitely no bueno. This is the borderline. This is why I kept it in here. This is something like a sealed, like collectible kind of thing, where of course it's sealed. There's no way they could use it until they do. Like they use it one time and then it's open. So these are things you definitely report to your head judge when you see them. But again, this is something I would like give a warning for. This is straight game loss. If you're a player and you're watching this, do not do this. Just bring another deck box. Come on, guys, just don't do that. For that one sleeve, of course, tell them to resleeve unless you think it's actually malicious and it's not like a mistake or anything. That would also probably be a warning. and just re-sleeve. If they don't have another sleeve, then well, buddy, you're taking off all 50 over sleeves and you're playing it like that. Good luck to your art sleeves. Moving on, this is my last deck. This is my one piece deck. This is a very low tier deck. We're going to do the same thing. I'm going to shuffle. Shuffle, shuffle. I already have a pre-shuffle, so I'm not going to too much. And then, okay, present to opponent. I've taken it. I've taken their deck box. Really quick. First thing, look in the deck box. Wow, it's empty. Perfect. This player, what a lovely player. Didn't bring any extra cards, so I don't have to look at anything in here. Look inside here, or like look at the deck. We're gonna see anything marked. Well, kind of, because you can see the coloring's a little like inconsistent, but that's that's a Dragon Shield thing. So because of that, we're gonna look at some of the ones that are maybe like a little marked darker. Makata Curry, Lin Lin. Let's see. Yeah, that's it. Look up here. Look over here. This is a fresh pack of sleeves, by the way. So I'm kind of disappointed that they're kind of marked like that, but we'll see. So I'm gonna give it a shuffle again. Oh shoot, I shuffled before, but I was supposed to show like again, of course, before you do that, you check your like especially for a game like this, One Piece is a mulligan game. So for games with mulligans, when we do deck checks, I typically wait until after mulligans. Players will definitely be mad at me for that, and I have gotten players mad at me for that. But you don't want players to, grab five, be like, "Oh, this is a bad hand." But I kind of want to see where some of these cards go, or I kind of want to control where some of these cards go. So I'm going to put them back in my deck, like this, and start shuffling. And sharp-eyed people might have noticed that my cards are upside down for that opening hand, so that when I do my mulligan, I kind of understand where these five cards are. I can split them up so that, hey, maybe like that was a hand of good mid game cards and I don't want them now, but we'll want them later. So I want to kind of control their spread like this. And according to this, like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're all five perfectly spread in my deck. So I present my opponent my cut. And now I have five spread so that no matter where he cut, I probably will get to at least one of those cards. So yeah, before you do that, of course, now that they've presented, before they cut, I would try to take this, but I also try to take it after the mulligan just to make sure stuff like this doesn't happen. But apart from that, there shouldn't have been any issues with my sleeves. But I'll go to something that's leader. Doesn't really matter because it's a one of that's always public. I'll show you the other thing. So reason I got these sleeves in particular, you can see these are Dragon Shield, what do you call it, dual mats, black backing, orange back here. So you cannot see the card no matter what. And I'll show you these ones. Also Dragon Shield's orange, but you can read the card. You can see the shape of the card through it. These sleeves like these, depending on the game, are illegal for play, and these are something you should also look out for. For Bandai games in particular, you cannot play these because you should not ever be able to see the outline of the card, the back of the card, anything of the sort. I would 100% tell a player to resleeve. Depending on the severity, like this is the Dawn deck, which is the resource deck. Really, it's um, more lenient on this now than before. I would definitely like if it's like Worlds or something where you're showing like tons of spectators, a big advertisement thing. I would definitely tell them to resleeve like ASAP. For lower events, like user discretion. Don't be an ass about it. I would probably say like, hey, like listen, like if you ever go on stream, this is not a good look for the game. So I would ask you to resleeve before the next event, or before the next round. But this is your warning for now. And if I catch you in the next round, I'll probably give you a game loss, especially if it's on like a main deck or something and you're about to start the rounds and it doesn't look nefarious. Like let's say you're like a yellow deck with yellow sleeves, and yellow sleeves are obviously super transparent because they're even uh like less dark than these, right? Probably say like you probably will resleeve right now. If it looks malicious, and or like if it looks malicious, tell them resleeve right now. If it doesn't, it's like, hey, play your round, just get to it when you can. Like I don't want to see this next round. I'm going to check you again. Um, and to avoid that as a player, just get dual mats. Just get things with black backing. Like you can see such a difference. It's still orange, but either way, I like orange, so I'm happy I get to represent the color. But this is, if this is on my main deck, that's a no go. This one I just use these and it's all fine. So anyway, that's deck checking. Hope you learned something interesting. Uh, if any questions, if I missed anything, just let me know. Hey, I'm just fooling around for fun. So that's it. Later. Bye.